Why your brain thinks your phone is a body part. In 1998, a neuroscientist named Atsushi Iriki put a rake into the hand of a macaque monkey. The monkey had never used a tool before, but within minutes, something terrifying happened inside its intraparietal cortex. The brain cells that mapped the monkey's physical hand suddenly expanded. The tool had become flesh. 26 years later, that exact same neural hijack is happening to you every single second. Right now, your smartphone is sitting somewhere within your immediate reach. Maybe you are holding it in your palm at this exact moment, scrolling through these words. Maybe it is resting face down on the desk next to your keyboard, or buried deep in your right pocket. If you are like the average modern human, you will pick that device up roughly 80 times today. You will glance at its screen for a total of more than 4 hours before the sun goes down. Most people look at this habit and call it an addiction. They talk about dopamine loops, short attention spans, and corporate algorithms designed to harvest your time. But they are missing the real horror of what is happening. Because your brain isn't reaching for an external tool. It thinks it is moving an arm. Your brain has redrawn its own physical architecture to include a rectangle of lithium-ion batteries and treated glass. And the mechanism behind this shift is far stranger than you'd expect. To understand how a piece of consumer electronics can infiltrate your biology, you have to look at how your brain builds reality. Inside your parietal lobe, there is a specialized neural network dedicated to a single, ceaseless task. It is called the somatosensory cortex. This region contains a literal, topographical map of your physical body. Neuroscientists call it the homunculus. There is a cluster of neurons that represents your left thumb. There is a patch of tissue that maps the skin on your lower back. There is a sector for your jaw, your feet, your eyes. For decades, you grew your bones, your skin expanded to its adult limits, and the homunculus locked its borders. Your body ended at your epidermis. The world began on the outside of your skin. It was a clean, logical boundary. But then came Atsushi Iriki and his macaques. When Iriki recorded the electrical signals of the neurons in the monkey's parietal lobe, he focused specifically on the cells that fired whenever the monkey touched something with its fingers. Under normal conditions, those neurons only lit up when an object came into direct contact with the animal's skin. But when the monkey was handed the rake and taught to use it to collect distant food pellets, the neural map underwent a radical mutation. The receptive field of those finger neurons didn't just stay at the fingertips. It literally projected outward. It flowed down the wooden handle of the rake. It stretched all the way to the plastic tines at the very end of the tool. When the rake touched a pellet, the monkey's brain didn't register a collision between an object and an external tool. It registered that its hand had grown 2 feet longer. The moment the monkey mastered the tool ceased to exist as a separate object. It was annexed. It was incorporated into the monkey's psychological self-image. This is a property called neuroplasticity, and it is the secret engine of human civilization. Before our ancestors built cities, before they painted cave walls, they built stone hand axes, and their brains survived by treating those axes not as external items, but as biological upgrades. When a prehistoric hunter gripped a sharpened flint, their homunculus immediately remapped their arm to include the cutting edge. The spear became an extension of the muscle. The horse became an extension of the legs. The needle became an extension of the fingers. Our brains are evolutionary opportunists. They do not care about the distinction between what is born of flesh and what is manufactured from stone, wood, or steel. If a tool is reliable, if it remains constant, and if it provides continuous sensory feedback, the brain simply folds it into the body map. It saves processing power by erasing the boundary between the self and the instrument. But for 99% of human history, those tools had a profound biological limitation. They were passive. When you put down a hammer, your hand goes back to being a hand. The hammer doesn't call out to you from across the room. The hammer doesn't change its weight while you aren't looking. The hammer doesn't scream for your attention when your family is talking to you. But 20 years ago, we introduced a completely new category of tool into the human habitat, a tool that is active, hyper-responsive, and permanently connected to a global network. And your brain reacted to it the only way it knew how. It treated it as a literal organ. This is why you experience what psychologists call phantom pocket vibration syndrome. Think about this. You are walking down the street and you feel a distinct rhythmic buzz against your outer thigh. You reach down, pull out your phone, and look at the screen. Nothing. No messages. No notifications. No missed calls. The phone was completely silent. Most people shrug this off as a weird mental glitch, but neuroscientists who study this phenomenon have discovered something much deeper. Your brain is constantly monitoring the sensory inputs from the skin on your leg. Because your phone has occupied that specific physical space for thousands of hours, your somatosensory cortex has integrated the device into its baseline expectation of your body's state. Your nervous system has become hypervigilant. It anticipates the phone's signals so intensely that it misinterprets the simple friction of your clothes moving or a minor muscle twitch in your quadricep as an electrical message from your new digital limb. Your brain isn't imagining a sound. It is misinterpreting its own body map. It is a phantom limb sensation, the exact same neurological mechanism that causes an amputee to feel an itch in a hand that is no longer there is what makes you feel a buzz from a phone that didn't ring. The tool has been wired so deeply into your neural matrix that your brain can no longer tell where your skin ends and the plastic begins. And here is the part almost nobody talks about. This biological integration is not symmetrical. When your brain annexes a stone axe, your mind remains in control of the axe. The stone does not think back, but your smartphone is not an inert piece of flint. It is an active gateway to a $1 trillion attention economy. When your brain extends its neural map through the screen, it isn't just taking ownership of a tool. It is allowing a corporate ecosystem to take ownership of your neural map. Every time a push notification lights up the display, it acts as a direct electrical stimulation of your homunculus. An alert doesn't just catch your eye. It pokes your digital nerve endings. It twitches your artificial muscle. We have allowed our biological boundaries to be breached by an object that has an agenda of its own. And the consequences of this architectural rewrite are shifting what it means to be a human being. In 2011, researchers at Columbia University documented a phenomenon they labeled the Google effect, or digital amnesia. They found that when people believe information will be permanently accessible online, their brains actively refuse to store the data in their own long-term memory. The hippocampus simply skips the encoding process. Why waste biological energy storing a historical date, a friend's phone number, or the directions to a restaurant when your digital appendage already holds it? Your brain is treating the internet as an external hard drive for your mind. We are outsourcing our memory to the cloud. We are outsourcing our navigation to satellites. We are outsourcing our social intuition to algorithms. And just like an arm that is kept in a sling for months, the biological systems we stop using are beginning to atrophy. Your baby brain was too busy growing new neurons to hold on to its earliest memories. Your adult brain is too busy offloading its thoughts to build deep internal ones. We think we are making progress. We think we are building a world of ultimate convenience, where every piece of human knowledge is a glance away. But we never stop to calculate the transaction. We traded our cognitive autonomy for a 5-inch screen, and most of us never even realized that the boundary of our soul was being remapped. So what happens if you try to take it back? Researchers have found that when people undergo a severe digital detox, completely removing smartphones from their physical proximity for just 1 week, their brains go through a measurable period of disorientation. They describe feeling empty. They feel an ambient anxiety that they cannot pin down to a specific cause. They feel as though they have left a part of themselves behind in an empty room. It isn't just psychological withdrawal from a habit. It is the raw physical sensation of an unmapped limb. It is your homunculus screaming because a piece of its body has been severed. For 300,000 years, your ancestors defined themselves by the limits of their flesh. They used tools to conquer the wilderness, but at the end of the day, the tools went into the dirt, and the mind returned to the quiet interior of the self. They knew exactly where they ended and the universe began. We threw away that clarity for a pocket full of glass. We let our nervous systems expand until they became tangled in a global web of servers, notifications, and invisible currents. And now we are stuck in the middle of an evolutionary mismatch we do not know how to fix. The next time you feel that faint, ghostly vibration against your leg, don't just reach into your pocket. Stop, stay still, and look down at your hand. Try to remember what it felt like when your fingers belonged entirely to you. The macaque monkey didn't have a choice. It couldn't drop the rake once its brain had swallowed it. We still have a choice. We can unplug the limb, but we have to be willing to feel the amputation.